This is a book review in mental health of the book, The Shadow Work Journal, a guide to integrate and transcend your shadows by Keila Shaheen. Stay tuned to hear what some readers of the book had to say and which book we will be reviewing next.
Right, so today we're diving deep into shadow work.
Yeah.
It's everywhere right now.
Especially with this shadow work journal, right?
By Keila Shaheen.
Keila Shaheen, yeah. It seems like, I don't know, every time I'm scrolling through social media, somebody's talking about it. So we're going to try to unpack that a little bit today.
It's interesting because I think it's a really great gateway into, the world of Jungian psychology for people who might not otherwise come across it.
Right. And they might not be like super familiar with this idea of the shadow self.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like all the hidden stuff that we don't really like to talk about or look at or acknowledge. And this journal kind of helps you supposedly confront that.
Yeah.
So you've got a bunch of different articles and stuff about this and kind of some different viewpoints about whether it's actually effective.
Okay.
But first, maybe we should just clarify, like, what exactly is this journal about? Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of like a workbook. It's interactive. It's got all these different prompts and exercises in there, like to kind of help people explore these concepts.
So it's not just like, Dear Diary, today I felt.
Exactly.
It's like really guiding you.
It's going to guide you, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So is the author like a therapist?
So she's not a licensed therapist,
Okay.
but she does have a background in psychology. She's got degrees in psychology and marketing. She's
Right.
like studied lots of different therapeutic approaches,
Interesting.
like cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, energy psychology, which, by the way, is like this thing that focuses on the flow of energy in your body and how that affects your, emotions and behaviors and stuff.
I see.
And she also founded this app
Okay.
called Zenful Note. It's like a mental and emotional well-being app.
So she definitely has some expertise in the area.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, interesting. So this journal, I mean, over 1 million copies sold is pretty impressive.
It's huge, yeah.
What has the reaction been? Have people been like, this is amazing? Or are there people who are a little bit hesitant about it?
Well, I mean, it's definitely gone viral on TikTok,
Yeah.
which is part of, like, its popularity, I think. But, there have been mixed reactions.
Right.
Some people think it's, like, really great for, like, introspection and self-discovery.
Yeah, yeah.
But, some mental health professionals, they're, like, a little bit concerned.
What are they concerned about?
Well, I mean, partly, it simplifies these like really complex psychological concepts.
Okay.
And there's not really a strong emphasis on like the importance of seeking professional help.
Okay, interesting. Well, maybe we should get into the actual nuts and bolts of this thing. Like, what are some of the exercises in there?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, some of them are kind of like your typical things like, making gratitude lists, but then some of them are a little bit more out there.
Out there like what?
Like mirror gazing.
Mirror gazing.
Yeah. So you just like sit in front of a mirror
Yeah.
and like you just look at yourself.
Like in the eyes.
In the eyes, yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what's that supposed to do?
Well, it's supposed to like help you connect with like your subconscious
Okay.
and confront those parts of yourself that you're like normally avoiding.
I see.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get to know them better.
Yeah.
Interesting. What else?
There's also like wound mapping,
Wound mapping. Okay.
which is basically where you like look back on your past experiences, like especially from your childhood.
Yeah.
And try to figure out where these inner child wounds came from.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, and how they're still like affecting you now.
Right, right. So like how they affect your relationships and your behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds very introspective,
Yeah.
very self-analytical. But I could already imagine like mental health professionals would probably say that's no substitute for real therapy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they definitely say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That while self-reflection can be a good thing, it's like not a replacement for working with like a qualified therapist.
Right. Especially if you have like deep-seated issues.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, mental health issues. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's like this kind of interesting tension going on here where it's very popular.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are like, hold on a second. Maybe this isn't the best approach.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what we're going to unpack today.
Exactly.
Let's get into, like, what are some of the strengths of this approach?
Yeah.
And what are some of the weaknesses?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with the strengths? What are some of the things that make this journal and this whole concept of shadow work so appealing to people?
Well, I think one of the big things is it's just really accessible. I mean, you can get it online, you can get it at a bookstore.
It's pretty inexpensive, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, pretty easy to understand.
And engaging, yeah.
Yeah, it's engaging, exactly. Like, especially for like younger people who might not, want to see a therapist.
Right. Or read a big, thick psychology textbook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like, it's been all over TikTok, so it's reached like a huge audience.
And introduce this concept of shadow work to people who probably would never have heard of it otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. What else?
I think, it's helped to kind of normalize talking about mental health.
Right. It makes it less taboo.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to explore these, like, darker sides of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, it's like a good introduction to some of these Jungian ideas.
Right. Like the shadow self and all of that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So, accessible, it's introduced these Jungian ideas to a wider audience, and it's normalized this whole, like, idea of mental health.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking back to those mental health professionals and what they were saying about some of their concerns.
Right.
So let's flip the script a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of the weaknesses.
Yeah.
What are some of the potential downsides or critiques of this approach?
Well, I think, one of the big ones is that it kind of oversimplifies some of these really complex psychological concepts.
Right. It's like a crash course.
Yeah.
But maybe not the full picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it also, I mean, we already talked about this, but the fact that the author is not a licensed therapist,
Yeah.
I can see how that would raise some eyebrows.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with these potentially, like, really sensitive and deep issues.
Yeah.
So maybe not the most qualified person to be giving advice on this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, also, there's not really any explicit encouragement in this journal to, seek professional help.
Right. It's all very DIY.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this yourself.
Exactly.
Which, for some people that might be fine. But for others, that could be kind of dangerous.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's a really good point that, this journal can be a helpful tool.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware of its limitations. It's not a magic bullet.
No.
And if you're struggling with, like, some serious stuff,
Yeah.
you should really talk to a professional.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of like the lay of the land. But now I'm curious, like, why is this whole shadow work thing so popular right now?
Yeah.
Unless you learn to face your own shadows, you'll continue to see them in others because the world outside of you is only a reflection of the world inside of you. Join more than 1 million readers all around the world in a journey of self-discovery and healing with this new expanded edition of the Shadow Work Journal.
This is basically therapy in a book. So I feel like it's something we all need, whether we want to admit it or not, but working on your shadow and just the things that have hurt you in the past. This book is really a deep dive into that, but it has not just prompts, but also exercises to get you past the things that are just your shadows in your life.
Like, Carl Jung, I mean, he's been dead for a while, so this isn't exactly a new concept.
Yeah.
Why is it having such a moment?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think maybe part of it is like this whole backlash against, toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Like everybody's supposed to be happy all the time.
Right.
And if you're not, like, there's something wrong with you.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people are, like, over it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're tired of pretending.
Yeah.
And they want something, like, more real.
Yeah, they want authenticity.
Exactly.
Want, like, the full spectrum of human experience.
Yeah, like the good and the bad.
The light and the dark.
Exactly. And I think, shadow work kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, it's like an acknowledgement that we're not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to have those, like, darker parts of ourselves.
Right. And maybe even, like, those parts are important.
Oh, absolutely.
And they make us who we are.
Yeah, and I think, maybe by acknowledging our own shadows, we can also develop more compassion for other people.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, like when we can accept our own imperfections,
Yeah.
it's easier to accept the imperfections of others.
It's like once you realize that everybody's got their own stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
you're less judgmental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like individual growth.
Right.
It's about like collective healing,
Oh, I like that.
you know, like healing those divisions that we see in the world.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah. Okay, so I'm starting to see the appeal of this whole shadow work thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta be honest, like, it also kind of freaks me out a little bit.
I get that.
Like, what if those shadow parts are just, like, too scary to face?
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that shadow work isn't about like diving headfirst into the abyss.
Okay.
You know, it's about approaching those parts of ourselves with like curiosity.
Welcome to your journey of shadow work. May it be as enlightening, transformative, and healing for you as it has been for me. With love, Keila. Unless you learn to face your own shadows, you will continue to see them in others, because the world outside of you is only a reflection of the world inside you. Carl Jung. 1. Shadow Work Introduction. What is shadow work? Shadow work is about revealing the unknown. The shadow is an unconscious aspect of your personality that the ego does not identify with. You might experience your shadow when it's triggered in social interactions, relationships, and in episodes of anxiety or sadness. The unconscious mind contains repressed emotions from painful events, causing impulsive behaviors and unwanted patterns that form your dark side. In short, the shadow is composed of the parts of yourself that you have forgotten, abandoned, and repressed in order to grow and fit in with the constructs of society.
Yeah.
And compassion.
Right.
And doing it at a pace that feels safe.
So baby steps.
Baby steps, exactly.
Hey, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Good.
But like, practically speaking, how do you even do shadow work?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different techniques. We talked about some of the ones in the journal, like the mirror gazing.
Right.
And the wound mapping.
Yeah.
But, you know, another common one is shadow work journaling.
Shadow work journaling.
Yeah, basically you just write about all the stuff that you're normally trying to suppress.
Well,
like those thoughts and feelings and behaviors that you're like, nope, not going to deal with that.
so it's like having a conversation with your shadow self.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And what's cool is that a lot of times, like once you give those thoughts and feelings space to exist,
yeah.
they actually start to lose their power over you.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like when you finally talk about something that's been bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, okay, it's not so bad now that it's out in the open.
Right. Right.
So yeah, shadow work journaling can be really helpful.
Okay. What else is there?
Another interesting one is like dialogue with the shadow.
Dialogue with the shadow.
Yeah, so you basically, like, imagine having a conversation with your shadow self.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, it can get pretty deep,
I bet.
but it can also be really insightful, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, you can start to understand those hidden motivations and beliefs that are driving your behavior.
Right. Right.
And it's not just about, like, analyzing your thoughts and feelings.
Mm.
It's about engaging your imagination,
Okay.
your intuition.
So it's almost like an artistic process.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that to it.
Interesting.
Like you're using creative expression to explore those deeper parts of yourself.
Okay, I'm starting to get a better sense of how this all works.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you even begin?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming,
Yeah.
but remember, it's a journey, not a race.
Okay.
There's no need to rush into anything.
So start small.
Start small, exactly.
Okay.
Like just start by becoming more aware of your thoughts and feelings and reactions.
Okay.
Your scars tell a story of survival. Let them remind you that even in your darkest moments, you found the strength to keep going. Healing begins with believing in your own resilience.
Notice those moments when you feel triggered or reactive, and ask yourself, like, what's going on here?
What's underneath this?
Exactly.
Okay, that seems manageable.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are also some potential pitfalls,
Oh, absolutely.
especially if you're doing this without, like, professional guidance.
Right.
So what are some things to watch out for? Okay, so we've talked about, like, the potential downsides of shadow work,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're, like, flying solo
Right.
without a therapist.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the good stuff.
Okay.
Like, what can you actually gain from this
Yeah.
if you do it right?
So, I mean, there are a lot of potential benefits, right?
Okay.
Like, for one thing, it can really help you understand yourself better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you become more aware of those, like, unconscious patterns
Right.
and beliefs that are kind of running the show behind the scenes.
So it's like you're finally seeing those puppet strings,
Exactly.
the ones that have been controlling you all along.
Yeah, and once you see them, then you can start to, like, make different choices.
Oh, okay, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just reacting automatically anymore.
Right. What else?
It can also help you, like, manage your emotions better.
Right.
Because once you understand, like, where those emotions are coming from,
Yeah.
like, what's really triggering you,
Right.
then you can start to develop better coping skills.
Oh. So you're not just, like, overwhelmed by your emotions all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What else?
It can also help your relationships.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, like, if you understand your own shadow stuff,
Yeah.
you're less likely to project it onto other people.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're not always seeing the worst in them.
Right.
And that can lead to more empathy and compassion
Okay.
and just, like, better connections overall.
Yeah. It's like once you're not constantly battling your own inner demons, you're more available to, like, actually connect with people.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So we've got increased self-awareness, better emotional regulation, and improved relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But are there, like, any bigger picture benefits?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like societal benefits?
Yeah, I mean, shadowed work can even help address, like, systemic issues.
Okay, like what?
Well, like, prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
discrimination, violence, all that stuff.
Okay, interesting. How does shadow work help with that?
Well, because it helps us understand, like, our own unconscious biases,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like those deep-seated beliefs that we might not even be aware of.
So if we can, like, acknowledge those biases in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can start to change them.
Exactly.
And then that could, like, ripple out into society.
Yeah, and create a more just and equitable world.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like that. But it also feels a little bit overwhelming.
I get that.
Like, can one person's shadow work really make that much of a difference?
Well, here's the thing. We're all interconnected, right? So when one person heals,
Yeah.
it affects everyone around them.
Okay. It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
So even small changes can make a big difference.
absolutely.
Okay, so, we talked about this journal,
Mm-hmm.
the shadow work journal.
Yeah.
But I think we've established that it's not like a magic bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a good starting point. But if you're really serious about this stuff,
Yeah.
you might want to, like, explore other resources as well.
Okay, like what? What would you recommend?
Well, obviously, like, seeing a therapist
Right.
who specializes in this kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about books? Are there any good books on this topic?
Oh, yeah, tons. One that I really like is Inner Work by Robert Johnson.
Okay.
It's a classic.
Inner work. Okay.
Okay.
I'll check that out. What about websites or online communities? Is there anything like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Psychology Today has a lot of great articles on shadow work.
Okay. Psychology Today. Okay.
And there are, like, tons of forums and groups online
Oh, cool.
where people can, like, connect and share their experiences.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into shadow work, what's the one thing you hope people take away from this?
I guess just that, like, shadow work is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be challenging,
Right.
but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Okay.
It's about becoming whole and embracing all parts of yourself.
There's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly.
All right. I like it. On that note, I think we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We encourage you as well to check out this book, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Make sure to stay tuned on our channel for our next mental health book review about the book Unstressable. A Practical Guide to Stress-Free Living by Mo Goddard and Alice Law. What if you could master stress, rather than let it master you? Unstressable is your ultimate guide to breaking free from the stress pandemic and reclaiming your calm. With actionable strategies grounded in neuroscience, Mo Goddard, a renowned happiness expert, and Alice Law, a stress management coach, empower you to understand the science behind stress, identify your personal triggers, build habits that foster resilience and balance. Through relatable stories, mindfulness techniques, and practical exercises, this book teaches you how to transform daily struggles into stepping stones for a calmer, more fulfilling life. Dive into Unstressable and discover the tools to unlock peace of mind and live stress-free. It's not just a book, it's a life-changing toolkit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss this or any of our upcoming reviews. See you soon on Mental Pages. Let's turn the page to better mental health.